Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These were the founding principles embedded into the very fabric of the United States. But in recent years, those ideals have become increasingly unrealistic, and the pursuit of happiness has become the pursuit of food, of survival. When we talk about food insecurity, we tend to see people as statistics, the number of the hungry, the distance from a grocery store, or the number of volunteers. We wanted to change that, so we set off on a journey to interview various people and organizations helping people experiencing food insecurity. This is their story.
Something, guys. My English is not too fluent.
¿No? Es mi relación con la comida.
These two neighbors are Venezuelan immigrants, a mother and her son. They immediately waved at us and were more than excited to share their story.
De depender del estado para recibir comida es un reto. Es un reto because sometimes no está cerca de la casa de la persona.
But little did we know the hardships that would soon recount.
Y hacer la línea afuera cuando está nevando fue horrible. Oh my God.
To protect her privacy and security, we needed to alter her voice.
Había tantas personas diabéticas y jóvenes, niños, en mi país, ¿no? Yo soy de Venezuela. En Venezuela tenemos mucha hambre ahorita, de verdad. Yo me vine en un momento muy difícil huyendo de mi país porque yo vine huyendo de la política. Yo trabajaba en el gobierno y veía cómo botaban montañas de comida. Y viendo a mi pueblo morirse de hambre, me puse a hablar con la televisión y la radio y tuve que salir. Porque si no salía, mis hijos se me morían allá. Bueno, pero ahí vamos, poco a poco a luchar y darle gracias a Dios. Y de verdad que estoy muy contenta con Estados Unidos y aquí, de verdad, nunca en mi vida había vivido algo tan emocionante como ir a los pantries a buscar comida. Eso me gusta. No, me gusta, mira, mi hijo me dice, mamá, tú pareces una niña, pero es que siento tanta felicidad cuando voy a los pantries, porque no recojo para mí, pido para otras personas, ¿me entiendes? Y sé que llego a mi edificio y le doy a esta, le doy a la otra, busco el agua, no me importa la raza, lo importante es ayudar.
Another neighbor also approached us and wanted to be interviewed as well.
Typically providing a given, we can grow our own food. Ideally, we can provide ourselves with our own food if we put forth the work, but not many people have those accessibilities. So for the food pantry to have food and be able to provide it from the greater food depository, it's all the more better for everyone just because it's not something that they're purchasing with their own money, but it's something that they're receiving as they would be able to get it on their own if they had the chance to.
Enter the Northwestern Settlement, a source of hope for neighbors across Chicago.
My name is Jasmin, and I am the Director of Emergency Services here at the settlement. Still near Ukrainian village, and we do have a Polish population as well. But right now, most of our families are Hispanic, Latinx, and African American. We still do services with the Ukrainian and Polish immigrants here.
The settlement house has been open for over a century and has long served as a beacon of hope for people experiencing food insecurity in Chicago.
This is our pantry, and we are a choice pantry. We used to pack the food and then we would just give it out. People would come in and they just like sign in and then we'd just give it out. But we changed that a bit ago. And the reason is that we just really want to give families choice. We really believe that like choice equals dignity. And so we have found that this is a better model for people to come in and sort of select what they need. Understanding that people don't wake up in the morning and say like, I'm gonna go to that pantry, I'm so excited. And so people who come to the food pantry are experiencing food insecurities, right? That either financially cannot afford to go to the regular grocery stores, or really just don't have any grocery stores in their area.
Pantries like the Northwestern Settlement are made possible by organizations like the Greater Chicago Food Depository.
We do
do that in partnership with hundreds of community partners in every city, every suburb. So that means food pantries, soup kitchens, shelters, other sorts of food assistance programs that get people the food they need directly in their community. Because of the economic fallout of the pandemic, food insecurity in our community and communities around the country are really at a heightened rate. And so while we're seeing some improvements compared to what we saw in the early days of the pandemic and early to mid-2020, those rates are still far above pre-pandemic levels. So people are still struggling to get the food on the table that they need for themselves and their families. To put that in a little bit of perspective, in 2021, Feeding America, which is the national network of food banks, they projected that more than 600,000 Cook County residents would be living in food insecure households. And in 2019, before the pandemic, the number was closer to 480,000. So when we're talking about food insecurity, we know it's the result of many root causes. Those root causes existed before the pandemic, and the pandemic only really heightened what we were already seeing, pre-2020. So when we talk about root causes of hunger, a lot of that is socioeconomic. There could be barriers to employment, that could be barriers to stable housing, health issues, having to choose between whether you're going to afford medicine or food, having children and the expense of childcare, and many other reasons that people could be struggling with the lack of access to nutritious foods. So this means, strengthening federal nutrition programs like SNAP, which is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or WIC, which is a SNAP for women, infants, and children, as well as other forms of benefits or support that help strengthen the social safety net for those who are struggling and maybe need some extra help. When we talk about SNAP, that is one of the country's most effective anti-poverty tools, helps lift people up when they're struggling economically, and during the pandemic was something that kept food on the table for so many people. And just at our organization alone, we helped connect thousands of people to SNAP throughout this past year and in 2020. When people are really involved in the mission and getting the word out there and walking the walk and doing the work and helping people in their communities, that really does go a long way with making people acknowledge that this is an issue that is affecting our neighbors, our friends, and in some cases our family. And so just letting people know that there is, that you're there for them and you're able to support them.
If you look at the numbers that we have here, this is all based on quantity for what we receive. We have a partnership with the Food Depository. And so they, based on our numbers, so we have not only with the Food Depository, but we also have a contract with the USDA program. And that's what that's allocated to us based on a formula of visitors. So we get a certain number of boxes of, for example, beans or something. That's just automatic. But the Food Depository also lets us order from their menu. Not many pantries have frozen meat. Usually, we'll go. We have facilities to be able to store the frozen meat, and that gets bagged. We've got volunteers who come in the afternoon, and they will come and bag it. And so towards this time, we just give them a bag.
Security right now, like I mentioned, is still very much an issue. It was at the beginning of the pandemic, and we're still seeing it right now. And we want people to be aware that even though we're seeing higher levels of food insecurity than we did at the pre-pandemic level, but our goal is not to just get back to where we were before the pandemic. We want to make sure this is not an issue for people in the months and years to come, and we want to try and eradicate this issue as a whole. So just getting back to pre-pandemic levels is not the goal. The goal is to eliminate hunger and its root causes for everyone in our community.
But that's certainly easier said than done.
This help doesn't alleviate and doesn't solve any financial instability moving forward. I think, sometimes it could be where people, if I give you this, you're going to be set for the rest of your life. Our families really struggle with financial insecurities.
Approached us wanting to be interviewed, but wished to keep their voices hidden. The first was a grandfather with more than 32 grandchildren. He told us about how he loves home-cooked meals from his partner, but also told us about the difficulty of having so many mouths to feed. The second neighbor told us about the difficulty she and her family is having to meet the rising cost of food. She says meat has been especially hard, which is why she says she's so thankful for food pantries. But not everyone's experience at a food pantry has been positive.
Muchas veces tratan a las personas que están en la fila esperando por la comida mal y les hablan fuerte. Y la persona cuando ya está en una fila para recibir comida gratis, es mi concepto. Yo siento que ya la persona se siente humillada al tener que hacer una fila porque no tiene dinero para comprar comida. Y entonces después la persona que la va a atender la trata mal. Come on. Y creo que es por el hecho de que las personas que están de este lado, o sea, como ustedes que están de ese lado y nosotros que estamos de este lado, ver la necesidad del ser humano, entonces tú sientes como que, ¿sabes qué? Apúrate, porque esto te lo estamos dando gratis y esto no. That's really bad. Porque las personas se sienten mal, se sienten heridas ya por la situación del país, perder el trabajo, han perdido familiares por la pandemia, han perdido propiedades porque no han podido seguirlas pagando porque la pandemia los dejó sin trabajo. Listo. Bueno, aquí me han atendido de maravilla, pero hay otros pantry que de repente a mí me ven, oye, pero tú cargas zapatos, cargas relojes, cargas cosas, o sea, tú no necesitas. Eso no es tu problema. Como yo me vista o mi apariencia no quiere decir que no tengo una necesidad. O sea, tú no puedes juzgar a las personas por su apariencia.
De mi país es que todo es de la tierra a la cocina. Y aquí lo que le ponen a las cosas para que crezcan. Que a veces no nos ayuda, a veces nos ponemos obesos. Es por eso. Y no es porque comemos mucho. Es porque a veces los alimentos para que duren más tiempo los inyectan mucho. Me disculpa si tengo que decir eso, pero es la realidad. Por lo menos a mí se me venció la leche en estos días, el 2, y era el 22 y la leche todavía estaba buena.
Oh, es mucho tiempo.
Mucho tiempo. Yo dije, Dios mío, no puedo creerlo. En mi país la leche se vence de un día para otro y se pone queso. Se hace un queso tan rico que uno le pone la sal, lo cocina y ya hace el queso. Aquí no. Esperé 22 días, porque yo lo cuento, porque yo soy muy observadora, para que la leche se dañara, y todavía no se dañó, y todavía la botella y la leche no estaba dañada. Imagínate cuántos químicos le ponen. Y eso no nos hace daño, sino a la juventud, mi amor. La juventud. Mira, tú, un niño, un saliente, tú, una niña, un saliente. Es por eso, por lo tanto, que no comen los alimentos adecuados. Mucha gente piensa, tú sabes lo bueno que es la zanahoria para la vista, y mucha gente no le hace caso a la zanahoria.
Sí, mi mamá también dice eso.
¡Wow, mi amor! Mira, cómase toda la zanahoria del mundo y después va a decir, ¡ay, para qué lente!
Yo creo que tiene que ver es con la voluntad, que tú tienes que saber que tú vas a servir a personas que están heridas, personas que están maltratadas, personas que están, sabes, perdieron trabajo y por eso se sienten en depresión, personas que tienen problemas de adicción, de consumo y abuso de drogas.
It's just about taking yourself out of your comfort zone and putting yourself in a new environment where you will have that accessibility given to you. And when that comes, you just see like more opportunity for yourself and your family to grow as well as your community. And then from there, it's just about cooperation, helping each other out, providing resources for other members of other communities where they can come together.
Soy estilista maquillador y la pandemia me dejó sin trabajo durante casi 2 años. Entonces es difícil. En ciertas organizaciones que he visto la comida ya está expirada. Y eso sí impacta porque el ser humano no sabe lo que está consumiendo. A veces no ven ni siquiera la fecha porque ellos están viendo la necesidad y el hambre que tienen. Y las comidas tienen 5, 4, más que todas las carnes, hasta 6 meses vencidas, y así se la estamos dando a la gente. Es lo único que yo veo que sí es un poco delicado por las comidas, y a veces los vegetales nunca están frescos. Nunca.
When we first started this documentary, we thought we would have difficulty finding people who wanted to share their stories. Perhaps they felt embarrassed or simply didn't want to talk to some strangers with a camera. But we couldn't have been more wrong. Their stories are all around us. They are mothers and sons, young and old. They're our neighbors. And they have a powerful story to tell. It's just a matter of who will truly listen. The pursuit of liberty, the pursuit of food, and now the pursuit to be heard. Hopefully one day in the future, our neighbors can stop pursuing and start chewing.